Okay, so it's about time. So I guess not many more people will be coming. I mean, it's not many of us, but well, I guess a lot of people got scared with this virus thing. So I can assume that the ones who are here are either the strongest, the bravest, or the craziest, whichever it is. You're my kind of people. So thanks for coming. It's nice to be here at the Hyperledger Global Forum presenting Tokenation. Tokenation just became a member of the Linux Foundation and of the Hyperledger project. I'm João Mota from VOID.software. We're partners with Tokenation. They've invited me to come and deliver this presentation on their behalf and tell you a little bit about what we're doing together in this space, and specifically using Sawtooth. So Tokenation and VOID, we started collaborating in March 2018, so a couple of years ago, when we were approached to try to come up with a technical solution for their project. And we brainstormed together a lot. We had a period where we were going back and forth with many possibilities. Basically, Tokenation had developed a novel idea in terms of creating a new platform for a whole new tokenization ecosystem. But they needed a technical solution that would support their expectations and their objectives. Now, the briefing is that we intend here to create a platform that allows anyone to create, issue, and exchange assets through a fast process. But unlike what we see out there in past projects, we want to take it a step further by introducing anti-volatility algorithms. Not anti-volatility, volatility absorption algorithms. So we want to make sure that the ecosystem is sustainable and durable. Now, when we assessed the available frameworks to do so, it became very early on clear that Hyperledger Sawtooth was a very good candidate for this, as it had a very interesting mix of features that would support these goals. But also, of course, as at VOID, we had some past experience with the project. I mean, even though it was still in early days, and still is under intense development, but we still believe that it could provide with quite a few distinctive factors that would help us in the future. And so, gathering the general project requirements that can become quite clear. So the first one is scalability, because even though we're starting in Portugal, that's where we're based, and we're starting at our own national level scale, we did from the start have the expectation of going global quite quickly with the project, which is happening already, we can say. It's already pretty diversified in terms of user adoption in Europe. Then, of course, being decentralized, that's paramount to the main idea behind the project. Tokenization cannot truly happen in a credible way without a fully decentralized system. And we wanted to ensure full traceability across the whole system, as we want to be able to meet present and future governance requirements. I mean, we all know that in this space, governance is still pretty much experimental. I mean, we've been over the past year exploring regulatory constraints in many different geographies. You've got governments looking at tokens as utility assets, others consider it equity assets, others consider them as currency. Portugal just considers any crypto asset as a currency as any other, so any capital gains or losses from those assets are considered the same as what you get in the Forex market. It's still, I mean, here in the US it's something else. One thing that we didn't know is we wanted to make sure that we are future-proofed as much as we can to meet any upcoming requirements like that. So that's why basically Sawtooth seemed to us as a good candidate, but it also had two external potential advantages. One is becoming a contributor to a project, or having an example, a working project based on Sawtooth, and being one of the first to do so. I mean, there are benefits from that, risks as well. The risk normally arising from using something that's still very early on, still under development. But we want to take that risk and help push the project further. And there's another expectation that we have, is that the modular approach to the consensus algorithms that Sawtooth promotes might help us quantum-proof our consensus in the future. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in a post-quantum universe, what exactly will be the reality there. But having swappable consensus modules might give us at least a fighting chance of adopting whatever response we get in the future to that challenge. Now, I wouldn't say that these other are minor features of Sawtooth, but they were, for us, they also were part of that initial decision-making process. The fact that it's agnostic to the processing language used in transaction processors, in terms of the team that we have to build out, of the skills that we have to have in-house to, in the future, be able to support the many requirements of the project, that becomes relevant. And the fact that it promotes separation between network and application layers is, for us, as a custom software development company that's always been pretty much following the three-tier software development pattern. This resonates with us, that we have this kind of separation, make sure that we deal with the business logic in a as independent as possible manner as we deal with data or presentation. Last but not least, the promise behind Sawtooth, that we can leverage trusted execution environments to allow off-ledger transactions to occur without breaking the rules that we set up in the transaction processors, is pretty appealing. I mean, again, this has its own challenges. I mean, this does mean using certain specific hardware. It does reduce the number of possibilities we have right now in that respect. But again, we are also very keen on pushing this forward, on supporting core developers, trying to work with them, giving feedback to try to promote this technology as much as possible and make it a usable work in reality in the future. So being here at the Hyperledger Forum, you probably most of you know the key features behind Sawtooth. I'm listing it out here just for reference, but we know that it's peer-to-peer network. It has a distributed lock, so the separation of layers I mentioned before, and so on. But mainly, it has this the Sawtooth docs show this sentence, which I think pretty much resumes it in a nutshell. It intends to keep distributed ledgers distributed and making smart contracts safe. Now, you might say that saying that keeping distributed ledgers distributed is a redundancy, sounds pretty redundant, but in practice, we like to remind ourselves of that every now and again, because whenever you start building additional logic or more complex logic on top of a blockchain, there will be certain temptations coming up, especially from product owners who are just focusing on what the end product should be, start coming up with rules that really don't work in a fully decentralized world. So we keep reminding ourselves that to be fully decentralized, really, you don't have one central body of governance. You always have to think in a decentralized fashion. So that's kind of a big reminder. One of those things you put up on the wall so that everyone remembers it throughout project development. Now, there are, of course, a number of challenges that we have to face. Now, the fact that the consensus mechanisms can be swapped on the fly, that's not something that's fully working on Sawtooth. We know that there's a number of encumbrances still. It's not something that's so easily done. It's more easily said than done. But it's a work in progress, and the fact is that right now we don't need to be swapping consensuses all the time. It's just something that we need to be there in the future. So it's easily dealt with at the moment. Now, network deployment and management is on itself a challenge. In the previous talk, for those of you who were here, also talked a bit about that. And of course, it's ever more relevant that as the network grows, it becomes more complex to manage, and you have to take care of about security, stability, and so on. In that respect, we're also collaborating with blockchain technology partners. They'll be here in the afternoon at 2:30, also delivering a talk. It should be pretty interesting, because basically they're providing a system based on Kubernetes for distributed management of nodes. And of course, with that entails its own challenges in management of peers. We're right now using PBFT consensus. We were very keen on using POET, proof of elapsed time. It was supposed to be also one of the big add-ons from Sawtooth. It's not fully operational at the moment. We had to stick with PBFT and hopefully change it in the future. But that also brings its own challenges, because PBFT kind of requires that we have a known list of members a static list of members beforehand. So managing that static peering needs configuration reconfiguration frequently. So also challenges we're dealing on a day-to-day basis. And for now, for the current size of the network, we can certainly deal with them. We just need to be prepared for the future as we grow more. And of course, working in this rapidly changing environment of a project that's not the most mature. We all know that Fabric is way more mature than Sawtooth within the Hyperledger umbrella. That brings about its own challenges. Throughout all this, we're still trying to be innovative while steering clear of centralization. We're still trying to bring here a lot of the business logic that Tokenation has created and sets it apart from other projects in this space. As an example, and this is just one of the examples that I can talk about. A lot of the other algorithms and the other rules behind Tokenation are still under NDA. They'll be released to the public in a couple of months in the white paper. But this is a small example of something that's central in the platform. We are able to recover tokens in case of loss of private keys, or in case the holder decides that those tokens belong to someone who's, for example, underage, and they'll receive them once they enter into adulthood. So basically what we have is mechanisms that will send those tokens after a preset period of time defined by the holder. So 1 year, 3 years, 5 years after that time elapses, if those assets aren't touched or moved, they'll be distributed by default to the community if there's no other claim for them, or to another predefined wallet according to a KYC process that also is mandatory beforehand, so that can happen. This on its own, being a relatively simple implementation, is innovative enough that so far we haven't found that many people that have done it before, so it means working very closely together with the community to make it a reality. In terms of the project itself, just to give an overview of what we're trying to achieve. So the two main project revenue sources here are Tokenized and Savingscoin. So Tokenized is the platform for the tailor-made and low-cost tokenization of assets, be it companies, ideas, whatever. But we do have a process to help you come to this space. And Savingscoin is the underlying utility token that is your long-term savings investment that supports the whole framework and the whole systems. It's basically a crypto savings token that follows those volatility absorption rules to make sure that as you hold your tokens, you're supporting the network, getting dividends from it, and basically having your pension fund on the blockchain. Then we have token storage and management, so our own wallet, and a number of utilities for the many different applications that we currently have in the roadmap and that will appear in the future. Special mention here to the exchange, this decentralized exchange that we're developing. One of the innovations here as well is to have the full order book on-chain. This, we believe, is another big step in meeting regulatory compliance requirements in the future. As more and more, and I've just last week was reading through this report from the New York Lawyers Bar to the government regarding an opinion on cryptos. Because the IRS has launched quite a few number of guidelines regarding cryptos. And one of the key areas of conflict and of questioning there is how to assess the value of your crypto assets in terms of revenue taxing. Now, the suggestions from the bar are that you should take the average value in the exchange when the asset was traded. But we all know that that's kind of murky ground there. I mean, it depends on which exchange it is. I mean, most exchanges out there are centralized. So we believe this is one of the solutions for that if we have a full order book already on chain, we kind of get rid of that doubt there and make it even more transparent. So basically, Savingscoin, we believe, represents a new era for savings and based on crypto assets. And any other token that's launched on Tokenation benefits from the same algorithms. We kind of list them out here for reference. But we truly believe that this minimization of volatility can represent an absolutely new era for cryptos, even if it's not right now the first projects in tokenation, eventually we believe this is the way the things tend to evolve. And this can only be made a reality through frameworks like Hyperledger, Sawtooth, open source, enterprise grade ready, and that provide the reliability and credibility that a project like this needs. My time is up now, so if you have any questions, feel free, but we also have a booth in the sponsors lounge. We'll be there to answer any questions that you have, any details, provide additional information. Very, very happy to do so. And thanks a lot for coming and for being brave enough to weather it out and face the risk of all the risks that we are subject to these days and being here. Thanks very much.